Welcome back to CETV with the Soul Man Frank, where we're talking all things photography. So we're here with the very talented photographer Andrew Clark. Andrew, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Mate, what is this new beast from Sony?
So we've got the new Sony 70-200 f2.8 OSS Mark II.
Mark II.
Mark II.
How long has it been since the Mark I?
Mark I was one of the very first GM lenses produced by Sony. So it's been a good 4 or 5 years. I don't know the exact date, but it's been a little while.
Mate, so we've been eagerly anticipating this beast. Actually, we were just talking off camera before. I noticed that compared to the older model, they've got an actual iris lock on here. So for the aperture or iris, depending on how you want to call it, you can actually just lock it into place on the A.
Yep.
But then you've also got a click on and off.
Yeah, so a toggle declickable aperture. There's actually a few
video,
things.
obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so there's a few things which have been improved for videographers. We've got the declickable aperture, the ability to lock it in either in A mode, which will have it controlled by the camera, or using the physical aperture ring on the camera.
Right.
But equally, there's a couple of other things about image quality performance which are improved on this for video specifically as well.
Yeah, because so many people, you're starting to do a lot of video as well, right?
Yeah, a lot more video these days.
Yeah, for sure. And your main genre was always landscape?
Yeah, so my background is as a landscape photographer.
Right.
In recent years, I'm doing a lot of commercial stuff, a lot of videography, and a lot of work doing events and that sort of thing with Sony Australia. In particular, because the cameras have gotten so good at wildlife and action and sports, I've been doing a lot more of that as well.
Are you finding the AF is a lot quicker than the last one?
Yeah, it's night and day.
That's awesome.
So I'd say with this particular lens, the Mark II, there's probably 3 major improvements over the Mark I. There's image quality, autofocus speed, and then the weight. And that's probably the #1 ticket item. The new Mark II is just about 1 kilogram. The Mark I was 1,400 grams. So that's 400 grams, almost half a kilo, which is about 30% of the weight.
Yeah.
And that was the #1 thing I picked up, because the form factor is basically the same.
Yeah.
It looks roughly the same. But you pick it up and you're like, wow, that is a light 70-200 f2.
Yeah.
In fact, it's closer in weight to the old f4 than it is to the old f2.
So then if you combine the lightweight with the fact that it's just a 70-200 at telephoto, and the optical stabilizer is a new improved optical stabilizer, the OSS, steadiness is just insane, out of control, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's the ability to zoom in and still get quite a steady looking shot.
Well, some optical stabilizers will struggle a bit on telephoto lenses. When you zoomed all the way out, you still might get a little bit of movement because the lens is heavy, on telephoto. But if it's light and the OSS is improved, smashing it.
And one other thing about the lightness, and I'm speaking as my landscape photography background, when you put it on a tripod and you try and stabilize a tripod shot, because it's lightweight, it doesn't tend to move as much as put it on a sturdy tripod as the old heavy one.
Yeah,
so
I was able it could be heavy wind or anything, especially doing landscape.
Yeah, very true. So I was able to even do a little bit of long exposure in high winds down in Fremantle with this lens on a tripod.
Yeah, that's insane. And I did notice, we were looking at this before, talking about the zoom and whether or not it's a dust pump, because previous lenses, when you're zooming in and out, especially telephoto, the minute you zoom back in, you bring all this dust onto your sensor. You can't help it, even if it's the perfect sealed lens. This one I'm zooming and nothing's happening.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all internal zoom.
Yeah,
Front element doesn't move, the body doesn't get bigger or smaller and throw off your balance and that sort of thing. There's also gaskets, there's rubber seals around all of the ports, all of the buttons and that sort of thing. So weather sealing has been dramatically improved from the Mark I as well.
Cool. So can we drop it in the water?
No comment on that, but it's got nice resistance.
But you could be shooting out in the rain and still be
definitely.
There's not going to be fogging or any of this rubbish. So.
Yeah, and that's the the big benefit of shooting on the GM glass, the top tier glass from Sony. They're all weather sealed. I take all the landscape lenses out and sit in the rain for 40 minutes and never had an issue.
If someone's upgrading from the old version, so this is 77.
Yeah.
The old one was 77.
Yeah, the same. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
All your filters will work.
Cool. And actually, I wanted to throw a curveball at you. Why is there this on the lens hood?
Yeah, so if you've got an ND filter, a variable ND, or a circular polarizer on the front,
okay.
Slide that open, you can just sort of turn the lens filter on the front.
Almost fell off the table. And also, actually, I think some of our viewers should make some comments about using telephoto lens for landscape, right? So do you use a telephoto for landscape or a wide-angle for landscape?
Yeah.
What's the ideal lens for landscape?
Or the ideal lens. I'm not sure.
I'll throw you a few different questions there.
No. Well, I don't know that the perfect lens doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Obviously.
You
But
just got to keep buying them.
You need more than one lens.
Yeah, right.
And you need this.
Definitely. I agree.
More often than not, I'm shooting wide angle, right? Landscape, you do want to capture a lot of the scene.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah,
however,
the image of Frio is stunning.
That's a great one, but that's shot on this one.
Right.
Because of course.
Because it looks like you're capturing so much, but you've managed to achieve that in a telephoto lens.
So in some circumstances, the perspective that you want, the little story that you want to tell can be quite far away. Particularly if you're traveling in like mountainous areas with that sort of thing.
Mountain peaks that are actually quite far, you might not even be able to trek to. Good quality telephoto lens, capture those peaks rather than the whole mountain, still tells a story in an interesting different
So whenever I travel for landscape photography, I always have a telephoto option in my bag. When I first started on the Sony system, I had the f4 because of the weight. Because it was a good 30% lighter than the f2. And when you're hiking for hours, that's important.
Oh God, yeah.
I then moved
400 grams.
I then moved to a prime. Just because it was lighter. Again, I had the 135 f1.8 G Master, which is a relatively new lens. Very great lens. Most people use it for portrait. I would put it in my hiking bag to have a long option. But the problem with that is not very versatile because it's a prime. And if I'm thinking about selecting a little composition that's kilometers away when you're in a mountain range or just an area where the features are all spread out, didn't have the flexibility. This is about the same weight as the prime now.
Right.
It's a little bit more. It's about 100 grams more.
Yeah.
But for the flexibility.
But it gives you the versatility and still amazing low light, f2.8 compared to say the f4, like 7200. But then the 135 1.8, that's crazy for low light.
Yeah.
But you're restricted a bit, so
exactly.
It makes sense.
And that is really more a portrait specialist lens.
Yeah.
I just happen to use it as my long option for landscape. But this is far more appealing to me now. Cool.
So I know you did some awesome captures on this lens, and we're going to be able to share those with the viewers throughout this segment. I want to see that time lapse, or no, it wasn't a time lapse. It was like the
autofocus test. Yeah. So I went down to Fremantle.
How many frames a second?
So I was only shooting on the A7R4 for this one, which is my landscape camera, because that's what I had with me. But it'll still do 11 frames per second, which is not bad. Well, rewind 6 or 7 years, and that would be the sports category. But 11 frames per second using Sony's eye detect autofocus. But you'll see in the video that Riley, who's the guy running, he turns his head down. So it has to jump from eye detection to face detection and then to real-time tracking when it can't quite make out the face. But the long and short of it is that I shot a burst of 30 photographs, 29 were in focus.
We've seen that now. Wow, that is insane.
And that's not the best performing autofocus camera.
Have you got the A1?
I do have the A1.
Yeah.
I didn't have it on me when I was doing this test. So you'd expect even better performance on the A1, but what I was seeing is this lens absolutely keeps up with the high burst rates on the Sonys. So every single shot of that, and historically that test, straight down the camera, has been where autofocus systems and lenses have struggled.
Especially at speed.
Yeah, and Riley, as you can see from the photos, is an athletic man. He was moving pretty quick.
Beast.
Straight down the camera, not jogging at the camera, sprinting at the camera.
That's insane. So that's what I love about Sony, is that they've done all these camera improvements. They've been on top of their game with cameras for years. And in the early days of Sony's sort of mirrorless stuff with A7 movement, because it's like a whole movement and culture now, the A7, there just wasn't the lenses.
Yeah,
they just didn't have them. There was adapters and stuff, but now they just keep improving their glass.
Yeah, exactly. So in the first couple years, the G Master glass,
Yeah.
Great optical quality, but they were still older DSLR designs, which were sort of just adapted onto mirrorless.
Yeah.
But now what we're seeing with the lenses,
very specifically designed for, like,
it's a complete optical
mirrorless
redesign.
systems.
The weight of it's different because the lens elements are in different spots.
Yeah.
So the weight of it is more back towards the camera, so it's a bit more balanced on top of where the lens mount is,
Cool.
which is great for balance while you're shooting.
Yeah.
And
combined with that, with the better weight as well.
yeah, and they've got new technology for creating the glass elements as well. So there's what they call an extreme aspherical element in this one, which helps to bend the light in certain ways to remove aberrations and distortions and that sort of thing. But it's
Make me want to buy one.
I want to buy one.
Who wants to buy one?
So all that is to make it lighter
Yeah.
and to improve the balance and that sort of thing. And it's now obviously designed for the mirrorless system.
Totally.
So yeah, big improvements.
I wanted to ask you, because I know there's mode 1, 2, 3, and I don't think, can't remember if that was on the last one, but what's it for?
Yeah, so you're right. The old one only had 2 modes.
Yeah.
So they're different modes for how you want the stabilization to work. Mode 1 is when you are locking off and just trying to track essentially a stationary object.
Yep.
Mode 2 is specifically for panning,
Okay.
bird in flight,
Right.
or motorsports, and you want to do a bit of intentional camera movement on that
Yeah.
sort of
So
thing.
your AF would be slightly different for that. Yep.
Yeah, so it's the way that the stabilization works, because if you're panning,
okay, yes.
sometimes the stabilization might jerk because it's trying to stabilize, right?
Right.
But in
So
mode
it's more
2,
smooth.
yeah. So mode 2 is specifically for panning.
Right.
Mode 3 is for more erratic movement.
Nice.
So you could be going in any direction.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Mate, thank you so much. I think we've covered a lot in this beautiful piece of glass, in this exquisite housing of a lens.
Can I just say one more thing? Oh yeah.
Go for it. No, well, I was just going to say, I just noticed the actual close focusing is 0.4
It's
of a
way
meter.
closer.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's a massive
I think
improvement.
it's less than half what
Oh my
it
God.
was before.
So on top of like improved AF, improved stabilization,
Yeah.
improved weight,
Yeah.
the focusing distance out of control. I've
Yeah.
never seen a telephoto lens focus that close.
It's exceptionally close, so higher magnification. If you do a little bit of casual macro, you can sort of do it on this lens.
Yeah.
It doesn't compete with a macro lens, but it's good,
Sure.
good level of magnification. Yeah, everything about the lens is improved from the Mark 1. It's not like a small incremental improvement. It might look really similar, but everything is improved. And on that point, one of the other big areas of improvement is optical quality.
Yeah.
Like the actual sharpness of your photographs is far improved at f2.8, which is
Yeah.
great for your event shooters, for your portrait shooters, that
Yes.
sort of thing. But even at the high end of the aperture, high f-stop, which is, I'm a bit more interested for landscape stuff, above f16, also sharper.
Yeah.
F22, you never really want to shoot at f22, but if you have to for the depth of field.
Yeah, you would imagine it would be, just exquisite sharpness.
Yeah. So much sharper, wide open, and also closed down.
Yeah, and a lot of lens manufacturers, I think, do struggle getting it sharp in the wider apertures. So the fact they've managed to achieve that, Sony, well done.
Yep.
Mate, thank you so much. That was
No
really
worries.
insightful. I hope everyone else enjoyed it. And yeah, please make some comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out cameraelectronic.com.au. Huge thanks, everyone. Thanks, Andrew.
Cheers.
Guys, I hope you really enjoyed this interview with Andrew Clark, and we want to say a huge thanks to Sony Australia for getting the lens to us and to Andrew so we could do a great test on it. The images were outstanding, the colour was amazing, and Andrew, we've actually learned so much, so really huge thanks.
Cheers, thanks so much,
Thanks,
Saul.
guys.